Well, the year 2019 was let's say one of the rockiest years in the history of UFC. And Dana White also said it was the best year in the history. I kind of disagree, because as Kendall said yesterday in my live stream session, yeah, the rockiest period was the rise and downfall of Conor McGregor, which I kind of agree. But let's now look back at the rockiest parts of 2019. TJ Dillashaw, the sore loser. Well, yeah, it was in January 2019, dropping down to 125 to face flyweight champion Henry Cejudo, and 33-year-old TJ Dillashaw was TKO'd in less than a minute. And TJ Dillashaw failed the drug test for their January bout, testing positive for EPO, which is an injection-only performance-enhancing drug, and as a result, that he was stripped of his bantamweight belt. He was slammed with 2-year suspension and lost multiple sponsorship deals, and it kind of generated a string of anti-doping controversies, including Nate Diaz incident. And in the run-up to UFC 244, John Jones was tested positive for a banned substance metabolite for his UFC 235 bout against Anthony Smith. December 2019, USADA responded to this year full of high-profile blunders by making major changes to their UFC anti-doping policies. They adjusted their leniency towards trace-level laboratory findings to attempt to separate intentional doping cases from contaminated supplements of accidental ingestion. And let's see, is this another drop in the ocean? But TJ Dillashaw, he lost the most. Weili Zhang, the first Chinese UFC champ. Well, man, I'm so much thrilled because China has a UFC champ. She has always been one of my favorite fighters. And Jessica Andrade, she was a girl that slammed Rose Namajunas, and Weili Zhang started better in shots, landing so many big shots, 19 successive wins, and then TKO'd Weili Zhang with a big punch, and then with a barrage of strikes on the ground after only 42 seconds, and receiving a herd of recognition from pros including Ronda Rousey, Dana White. And the UFC opened a new performance institute in Shanghai. Bellator has announced plans for rapid growth in the European market and is working closely with MMA coach John Kavanagh to nurture European talent. So yeah, definitely, it is becoming global. What Dana White said, it is becoming global. Jorge Masvidal's KO Ben Askren. Well, Jorge Masvidal, he's actually a strong guy, and many people believed that Ben Askren is gonna maul him for 3 rounds, but Jorge didn't share their greed. UFC 239, as soon as it kicked off, flying knee, and Ben Askren was knocked out. Ben Askren was catapulted down the canvas. Got to say, it was one of the fastest knockouts in the history of UFC, and later I found out it was the fastest one, only 5 seconds, but I think it happened after 2 seconds because there were 2 unnecessary blows. Show-stopping performance put an end to Askren's undefeated record, and not only did it destroy the unbeatable perception of the former welterweight champion, it also changed the perception of Jorge Masvidal. After UFC 239, Gamebred's perception transformed from a streaking journeyman into one of the most deadly opponents in the welterweight division. Demetrius Johnson, he won one flyweight Grand Prix. Dana White has never liked him. I mean, one championships 100th show, which went down in Tokyo, Japan, featured Demetrius Johnson attempting to win the Grand Prix and beating Yuji Wakamatsu and Tatsumitsu Wada in quarter semifinals. Johnson positioned himself as a finalist against Team Lakai stood Danny King, and Johnson delivered masterful performance against his game opponent, utilizing his superior wrestling to accomplish a unanimous decision win. In the process, he won the 8-man competition and broke King's 6-fight win streak. It was a very busy year for Mighty Mouse, but man, he won the belt. He won the belt, man. This is amazing. Racking up 3 fights in a short period. First time since 2013, and great result for Demetrius Johnson. Then I made a mistake for parting ways with this guy, but okay. The BMF title. for the first time in UFC history, we've seen something that is not a classical title. Jorge Masvidal and Nate Diaz competed for the best motherfucker, and following Nate Diaz and Showtime Pettis victory, UFC president Dana White created the belt, and it was one of the best bouts. Unfortunately, it was stopped by a doctor, but it could open a new era, nicest motherfucker. And Kendall also had wonderful ideas, also Steelers had wonderful ideas. Thank you guys so much for these wonderful ideas yesterday. I mean, there might be a new era, you never know. I'm not into politics, so you never know what might happen. It's just Dana White and the rise of Israel Adesanya. Well, man, I could never say that a former glory middleweight champion is gonna be catapulted so high. It was a great year for the current middleweight champion Adesanya. The undefeated star got off to a great start by defeating MMA royalty Anderson Silva in the main event of UFC 234, having the same success when he faced heavy hitter Kelvin Gastelum. And the last stylebender won the first 5-round fight against Gastelum by unanimous decision, earning the interim belt in the highly anticipated UFC 243 against Whittaker. The title challenger, he kinda made his octagon entrance in style. I mean, a lot of dancers, and Adesanya busted out moves worthy of Michael Jackson music video. His octagon performance also lived up. Second round, a left hand, goodbye Robert, jaw-dropping knockout. And Kiwi's rise is up, Nigerian rise is up. Kamaru Usman won the title. Nigeria has 2 champions. This has never happened. Africa has 2 champions. Chris Cyborg signed with Bellator. Dana White, I don't know why we're doing this, but the former UFC Strikeforce and Invicta featherweight champion has had a career full of twists and turns. This year was no exception. After losing to Amanda Nunes by first round TKO, tensions between the former champ and Dana White were at an all-time high. UFC Kingpin had taken aim at Cyborg for allegedly avoiding a Nunes rematch, a claim which Cyborg vehemently denies. Their media spats included Dan White mocking Cyborg's appearance and Cyborg posting tempered video footage of a conversation with White. Their disagreement culminated in Cyborg being released from the company after her last contractual fight against Felicia Spencer in July. After considering her future as a free agent, Scott Coker picked her off the waivers, signed a lucrative new contract, and she is looking forward to a future full of new MMA opportunities, facing Bellator featherweight belt fight against champion Julia Budd. Conor McGregor, the big downfall, man. After announcing retirement in March 2019, you'd think it would be a quiet year for the Irish superstar, but not. He became embroiled in multiple media scandals. One of those stemmed from his punching an elderly man in pub, and before that he smashed the phone from Ahmad Abderjaks, one of his fans who were waiting for him at the airport. Footage also surfaced that notorious sucker punched a fellow patron after he allegedly refused to drink a shot of McGregor's proper not 12 Irish whiskey, and there were so many controversies of Conor McGregor. He has been in the headlines for a more favorable reason to comeback fight with Donald Cerrone, and they will square off on January 18th. We will see what will happen next. And finally, George St. Pierre announced his retirement. I don't know whether it's permanent or not, but widely renewed GOAT hung up his MMA gloves once and for all. In 2019, George St. Pierre announced official retirement from the sport on the 21st February. At a news conference in his native Montreal, Canada, the Canadian fighter, he exited the sport as the most dominant welterweight guy of all time, and the guy who also won middleweight belt by defeating Michael the Count Bisping. He defended the strap, but also he is tied with Michael Bisping for the second most wins in UFC history, 20, only a few behind hyperactive fighter Donald Cerrone, 22, and the Canadian superstar also became a dual division champion. Yeah, man, and he's a real legend. He's the best Canadian all-time fighter in the history of UFC and the history of MMA. The MMA legend managed to step away from the sport whilst remaining on top and solidifying his legacy as the welterweight GOAT. And this has been an amazing year, and I'm so grateful, I'm so damn grateful. This has been also an amazing year for me because I have a lot of MMA fans who are constantly asking very, very constructive questions, who are helping me to progress, and who are very, very much helping me to become better in this activity. So thank you guys so much. I hope 2020 will be better as we're going to start live streams and commentary, and I hope I'll get your support. Thank you so much for everything, and we're rolling into New Year. Tomorrow I will post Bellators. If I find fights, I will post, no worries, it will be great.